Thrive means a huge amount to me. It's so many different levels. I think the most important thing is that 40 years ago when we started it, it was really difficult to get people to believe in what is now the basics of Thrive. And yet here we are now 40 years on and it seems so natural that people should regard gardening, horticulture as something therapeutic. 40 years ago that was quite hard. And so we had an uphill battle to get the organisation established. But battle we did. I set up Thrive partly because I really understood, especially in those old long-stay hospitals, which were very much part of the scene in those days. I very much understood that people were, in a sense, lonely in a crowd. They were lacking skillful things to do, and yet things which would bring them out. And horticulture, gardening, if you like, struck me as being the perfect way of being able to do that. And so we really brought two different sciences together. We brought the science of horticulture, gardening, the earth sciences, and we brought the whole idea of rehabilitation together and brought it into the middle and created this wonderful hybrid of horticultural therapy. And that was just such an amazing thing to be able to achieve. So I feel terribly pleased that we've done it, but really why I feel so pleased is because that was a long-term ambition to see people come together in that way. I think being outdoors is important to me for a number of reasons. First of all, we have to define outdoors a bit. So of course there's the great outdoors, what you might call in quotation marks, and to be just in nature, on your own or with friends, is just such an incredible privilege now. As we begin to see climate change and all the rest beginning to occur around us, we begin to get that sense of privilege, what it's like to be in nature and how marvellous it is. So that's one thing right there by itself. But to be able to participate in nature, to help a plant grow, and after all, if you think about it, nature is incredibly beneficent. It basically allows you, even if you're a little bit amateur, to plant, and yet it still grows as if it was, a perfect plant. And so to be able to do that is just so nourishing, don't you think? Just to be able to make something grow, encourage something to grow, be there when it grows, and then harvest it and give it as a gift or eat it or whatever it is, seems to me to be a wonderful thing for us as humankind. Well, it's true that in those early days when we started, it was difficult to get people to believe in gardening as something therapeutic, and certainly for it to be regarded as what you might call officially therapeutic, in other words, that it was part of the mainstream. And yet here we are today. Horticulture, the earth sciences, gardening itself are regarded as being very much part of the mainstream at the moment. And that's, an incredible thing by itself. Why has it happened? I think people get it in a way which perhaps they didn't in those early days. They understand that we are dealing with material, with nature itself, in such a way as it's going to be beneficial, almost as it were, without us knowing. And of course the contrast is, if you don't have exposure to that kind of possibility, what you find, of course, is that you become lonely, you become shut away. Interestingly, the great outdoors, or at least a garden, can bring you closer to people than being shut away, as it were, in your own room. And so it's got a wonderful socially beneficial effect, and people put all of that together. At the macro level, if you think of society itself, we're beginning to see that with climate change going as it is, we're beginning to understand the relationship better between nature and humankind. And that's terribly important as well. So at another level, at policy and strategic levels, we're beginning to understand how important the green space is, and we, woman and man, mankind, are in the context of that green space. And that is very important, I think. And it's one of the many reasons why policymakers now are much more open-minded about the therapeutic benefits of gardening. I think Thrive's come an extraordinarily long way since the early days when I founded it. It was always exciting to be the director of the organisation, even in those early days. And it was wonderful to be alongside our founders such as Jeff Udall, who's been so generous to the organisation. But sitting here as I have been today and watching the volunteers and staff go about their work and the number of the people who come in actually benefit even just from this site, let alone all the other sites and projects that we have, I've come to realize that this is a big organization. And more importantly, it's not big as in stuffy big, it's big as in reaching a lot of people. It has a tremendous impact now. And that impact, whether directly or whether through other partner organizations, is just so encouraging. It's just really encouraging. So with the relatively small staff and a wonderful volunteer force, we're able to reach just a great bunch of people who all love the one thing that we love too, and that stimulated me in the beginning, which is gardening.